Today we'll be continuing on the project that we started last week. We started blocking out the shirt for this character, and we got to the point where we have all of the basic anatomy laid out, and we have gotten to smooth mode so we can start to see a bit of the shape taking form. We even used the soft select tool so we could re-engage the shape of the model with the actual drawn artwork, and we had ended up with a fairly good match between the artwork line and the geometry. Today we're going to take this one step further, and we're going to use a bunch of tools in a bit more of a sophisticated way to start adding in the missing topology that will allow us to add in certain details that we couldn't before, such as her chest detail and the sleeves here and the line of the arms and the shoulders. And we're also going to use the sculpt tools to bring a bit more roundness into her form, because it is a little bit pinched and a little bit triangular. To get started on this, I want to select the model and press 1 to get out of the smooth preview. You also might want to turn on your wireframe on shaded button up here at the top. And you want to make sure that you have the tool settings open here on the left hand side, which is this button here in the top right. It's a little hammer with 3 dots. Try to make as much space on screen as you can, because you're going to need it later on. Select the geometry and press F on the keyboard, and that will focus it in the center of scene. Okay, the first thing we need to do is we need to add some support here so we can start modeling the chest area. To do that, we need to divide the left from right a bit more clearly so we have a left side and a right side. Make sure you're in object mode, so your mesh is green, and then grab the multi-cut tool. In the multi-cut tool, make sure edge flow is turned on. This will mean that Maya will start to interpret the roundness of the model for us and preserve it. And we want to make a cut just next to the center line. So hold down Control, and then you can hold down Shift if you want, and make a cut somewhere around there. It's about the 20% mark. So we have 2 vertical lines running up the center at the front. If you come to a lower angle view, you can see that with edge flow turned on, Maya has tried to estimate the roundness of the model at this point. Press Q to get out of the multi-cut tool. Now we want to grab the 4 polygons on each side that will represent the chest area. So you should have 4 faces here separated by the 2 that we just carved. Press R on the keyboard to get the sculpt tool. Hold down Shift and then grab this central cube and move your mouse to the left and scale that down, and that will start to isolate the topology here for each side of the chest. Press the space bar and come to the side view, and you can press W and move these faces out and down to line them up with the artwork. And we can then jump to vertex mode and grab these 2 here at the bottom as well and drag those down. You can probably also move these in and get the shape back. We can probably also grab these 2 at the front and get some roundness back here into the chest. Jumping back to the 3D view, we can see that we have quite an extreme shape here, and we definitely have a very extreme cleavage. So we can grab the 3 vertices in the middle, and we can also move those forwards and down a bit, so we can just reduce the extremity of that dip. Okay, that's about as far as we want to go without using the sculpt tools. If we start pushing and pulling vertices around, it gets increasingly hard to actually see what you're doing and what you want to do. So we're going to jump up to the sculpting shelf and grab the first sculpting tool. This will help us smooth out the model, round out the model, and get the shape that we need across more than one vertex without needing to select vertices and go to the different front and side view. The sculpting tools are 3D tools, so they allow us to do this in the perspective view a lot more efficiently than in any other tool. To access the sculpting tools, select the model, make sure you're in object mode, and then come up to the sculpting shelf and click on the leftmost sculpting tool. Before you start doing anything, you want to make sure your brush is the correct size and the correct magnitude. Hold down B and then use the left mouse button and move the mouse left and right to change the brush size. You want it to be about a size of about 2.5, and hold down M to change the magnitude of the brush, and you want this to be something a little bit less than 1. To start off with, we don't really want to play around with shape that much. We want to play around with the topology, so we want to hold down Control and Shift to enter relaxing mode, and then start relaxing the top line here above the chest, and then move down to each breast and start rounding out the topology that we have created. Do short little clicks and short little dabs rather than just holding the button down and scrubbing, because there's a limit to what Maya will actually do with each iteration without moving the neighboring vertices and neighboring edge loops. So you can see here I'm doing multiple short passes rather than just focusing on one area and going over and over and over it and over it. Come to the side view and double check your topology. That looks pretty good. The lower breast line should line up with the artwork coming in here, and the upper breast line should come up to about there. That looks pretty good. So the relax tool has gotten me the shape that we want in this area. You can make the brush a little bit smaller and then start sculpting out the sides here to get a bit more volume to the shoulders. And the arm. So just doing little taps again. Don't go too heavy-handed in one area. Always make sure that you're doing small little taps. And then smoothing and relaxing as well. Don't do too much sculpting without smoothing and relaxing. Okay, that looks pretty good. We'll deal with the shape a bit more when we get some more edge loops. Press Q to get out of the sculpt tool. Q, you may remember from last week, is a great tool that is a panic key to get you out of any tool that you may be stuck in. Okay, so the next thing we're going to want to do is we need to add another edge loop around here in the back, around the shoulder, and coming into the front here above the breast line to separate the neck from the chest as much as possible, but also to provide a bit more shape and support here around the shoulder. We can't really get the shape we want until these polygons here are reduced in size a bit. Select the multi-cut tool, and we want to start making a cut not from the center line, but from the next edge loop out. So hold down Shift and make a 50% cut here on the first edge loop out from the center. Then follow this edge loops out away from the center, and then cut across this to the shoulder, come down one more, and then rather than coming across to here, you want to cut across to the top of the arm, to the back of the arm, then across again to the back of the shoulder, and then join the edge loops up together. So you can see the path starts at the center, comes over the top of the chest, across the shoulder to down the arm. Once you get down the arm one polygon in, cut across and then across again to get to the back and join it up. Hit enter. The next thing we need to do is complete the cut in the middle. So click on the first vertex we cut and then in the center line and hit enter. And now we have an edge loop all the way around. But we also have some problems. We have a triangle here and a triangle here, and we have a triangle here. These two triangles here on the shoulder are the easiest to fix. I'm going to come around to the left shoulder, and what we want to do is make a cut from halfway along one edge of this triangle to the opposite vertex, and then hit enter. And you'll see that forms 3 quads. Jump across to the other side and do the same. Hold down Shift and find the long edge of that triangle and click, and then find the opposite vertex, the vertex that that edge is facing. And then cut to there and then hit enter. That is a standard way to fix any triangle by turning one triangle and 2 quads into 3 quads. It's actually one triangle and an n-gon into 3 quads. The final triangle up here we can fix in a far simpler way. Grab the target welds tool, make sure we're welding to center, and drag that onto the other vertex across the side of this slim sliver and let it go. Press Q to get out of the target welds tool, and we are now complete with our topology redesign. The final structure we might want to fix is this extra edge loop here heading up into the neck. We don't need this extra edge loop here, so let's return the target weld tool back to its target option and grab this vertex here and merge it outwards to its neighbor away from center. Do the same thing to the next one. Grab the next vertex and merge it with its neighbor outwards from center, and then press Q to get out of the target weld tool. We now have 2 triangles here facing each other, and using our technique from last time, grab the multi-cut tool, hold down Control, and we can make a cut from one triangle edge to the other, and that will turn this triangle into 3 quads. Press Q to get out of that tool, come back to object mode so your mesh is green, and grab the sculpt tools once again. Hold down Control and Shift, and we can smooth out the topology that we've just created. So I'm just going to rub over the model, relaxing all of these edge loops. Something like that. Make the radius a bit larger when you get to the back so you can relax over a greater distance. Once again, feel free to undo if you relax too much. You want to keep these shoulder edges as straight as possible. You don't want them to be too rounded, but you also don't want them to be too jagged. So you need to relax them as much as you need so they maintain a consistent shape. And these ones can come out as well to be evenly spaced down the line of the shoulder and the arm. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to press 3. I'm going to come to the front view and just see how we're tracking. Press 5 on the keyboard and you can see here that our outline and our shoulder there looks pretty good. The next set of tweaks I'm going to do, I need to use the grab tool. So grab the 4th sculpt tool along. Make sure, once again, make sure you're in object mode before you do that. Grab that grab tool, increase the radius here, and you can start grabbing different edge loops and just pushing and pulling them where you want them to go. The aim here is to straighten out a few of these edge loops and also to make sure that the chest is as wide as it needs to be at the front. So to do that, you might want to make your sculpt tool a bit wider. There we go. To bring these edge loops in the middle, we want to grab the pinch tool. And this is the final sculpt tool we're going to use on this. And we're just pinching together these like this, and then I can relax the ones around the outside, something like that. And that looks like a much better shape. And now we can sculpt out the shoulders. So I'm going to come back to the normal sculpt tool, jump back to perspective mode, and just sculpt a bit more roundness and shape here to the shoulder. Just give some volume here. All right, that's a bit much. So once again, I'm just holding shift to smooth out the shape. So I'm using the sculpt tool to get some roundness here to this line here at the front. I'm looking at a very narrow angle so I get a nice smooth curve. Feel free to pause the video wherever you need to focus on the roundness of an area and then move on. My advice would be to watch this video through before you attempt to do it yourself, just to see where it goes, so you have an understanding of what you're heading to and what the end goal needs to be. You can just jump ahead if you want to see what the end result of the shaping is. It's a good idea to know that rather than just figuring it out as you go along, because targeted because targeting your learning with these tools is a much more efficient way to go about it. There's just so many possibilities that it's hard to know if what you're doing is right until you get to the very end, which is one of the inherent frustrations built into animation. The back here is a bit square. I'm rounding that off just by holding shift and smoothing the corners, relaxing the topology in a bit. Okay, so when you think you've got the hang of all of this sculpting, feel free to stop. It's not like this is something you need to perfect on this model alone. It's more about learning the techniques. When you come to your own models, that will be the time to really focus on, getting the shape exactly right and stuff like that. Just spend enough time now so you're confident that you can come away from this lesson understanding both the process, the general steps, and how these tools actually work. One thing you'll notice about how they work is you cannot relax the boundary. To fix up the boundaries, you need to come back to the grab tool and just go to one of your orthographic views, press 4, actually do it in 5 mode, and just grab these edge loops and put them where you want them to be. There is no more efficient way to do it than that. And then you also need to relax them a bit to get the shape. So sculpt and relax them. You can sculpt them and relax them. You can sculpt them and smooth them, sorry. You just cannot relax them. Not quite sure why. But it's always been the case since they integrated these tools. Okay, so I'm going to stop there before I just start wasting everyone's time on details that don't really matter at this point. There we go. When you press 3, you should see that we have a very good looking shoulder line and chest line. The final thing we want to do is define the elbows. This character has arms and elbows, and this shirt needs to bend at the elbow. It also is the area where there is the least amount of match between the shape we have and the shape we want. So I'm going to grab the multi-cut tool and I'm going to press 4 and I'm going to make a cut here in the front orthographic view where the shirt suddenly gets wider. And then I'm going to grab the grab tool, go back to object mode, and just push and pull these vertices where they need to go. This one out there. All right, that looks good to me. Make the radius smaller. Make this a straight line. Like that. Make that a straight line. Come around to the back here. All right. Done. Press 3. And there we go. We've got the shape, we've got the topology, and we've got the structure that we need for this shirt. The final pass on this model that we're going to want to do is down the top of the shoulder and the arm and underneath the underside. You can see here that these edge loops are much closer together than the others, and there's a large gap here and a large polygon here. So I'm going to grab the sculpt tool, make the brush about the width of the arm, hold down Control and Shift, and just smooth out the edge loops on the top here and underneath. Come to an angle where you can see both, and then just make sure all of these edge loops are straight, or as straight as possible, and as smooth as possible. The final end part of the sleeves here can be a little bit difficult to fix. So I'm going to actually just go into the front view here, grab these faces, and delete them. Then grab this edge loop here and just re-extrude it, holding down Shift. Grab the grab tool, move these down to here, move this out to here, something like that. Keep that straight. Looks good to me, looks good to me. That all looks great. I can probably push that up a bit. Keep the shoulder line going as straight as possible. That all looks good. That all looks good. Press 3 and you've got sleeves fixed. Probably this can come out a bit down here just to match that shape in there. So I'm just using the grab tool, just grabbing, pushing and pulling the vertices manually. Something like that. Something like that. Okay. That all looks good to me. So we've now got a nice hoop shape here for the sleeves. There we go. Great. Cool. So the shirt is done. So when you deselect your model, you'll find that you have one remaining display problem. That the polygons here at the edge of the sleeve and around the breasts, everywhere where we've extruded, these polygons are now faceted and they're not smooth like the rest. To fix this problem, select the mesh in object mode, come up to mesh display and choose soften edge. And that will smooth out the polygons here and make the edges a little bit harder to see. Done.